Hey cousins, happy Tuesday. I hope you all had an incredible Easter and Passover weekend. And for those who celebrate, an incredible WrestleMania weekend. I don't care what anyone says, the biggest news of the year is John Cena winning his 17th World Championship and breaking Ric Flair's record. If anyone else is a pro wrestling superfan, let me know in the chat. And Wi-Fi permitting, I'll be responding because by the time you're viewing this, I will be on a flight to Jerusalem. Oh yes, I am heading to Israel to speak at Jerusalem News Syndication's first global policy summit, and I am so excited. All I know is I better get a pic with Bibi, so let me know if you guys have any questions that I should ask Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Other news over the weekend include Coachella being the mustiest it has ever been. The Lord works in mysterious ways because I was almost this close to going to Coachella for the first time. And had I been there and seen this pro Musty terrorist messaging, I probably would have crashed out. So we'll be discussing the Irish group Kneecap and their bold political statement, as well as I am calling for the help of Justin Bieber again. His behavior is becoming increasingly concerning, as well as this new serious Me Too allegation against Shannon Sharpe. There's one name attached to this case that tells me everything that I need to know. Anyways, y'all know the vibes. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, send in your super chats, and I will be in the chat again, Wi-Fi permitting. Welcome to Respectfully. Easter weekend was good. Thank you to everybody who reached out to me, wishing me a happy Easter. Shout out to Emily Austin for sending me an amazing gift package of sweets and wine and everything for Passover. I ate so much of that chocolate already last night. So if y'all see my face breaking out in the next week or so, just know that is why. Now, that being said, I just want to acknowledge that Easter is officially unburdened by what has been. Oh yes, shout out to everybody who went over to the White House for a classy, civilized, traditional White House Easter. Do we have some images of that? You know, shout out to Anna Marie Wiley. I saw that she was out there. It was just so family friendly. Look at my president. And that big old Easter bunny. Those big old rabbits do scare me low key. Melania serving face card and mug per usual. Do we have more? Do we have any others? Just look classy. Notice how everybody's dressed. Notice how everybody has their clothes on. Notice how this is a civilized event at the White House. And the reason that I'm bringing this up, the reason I'm letting you guys know that Easter is officially unburdened by what has been, is let's not forget how much a year makes in difference. Because just a year ago, when Easter happened to be on Trans Day of Visibility, you know the prior administration did not let that slide. And I have not gotten over the scene where the camera is panning at the White House and all of a sudden you see nudity. You see, do we have censored versions of that? This is crazy. You see the LGBT flag in the background. You see the tranny-licious divas rubbing their body parts. All this going on the lawn of the White House. I just know every single founding father is rolling in their graves. That was one of those moments during the lead up to 2024, where I had to really sit back and realize how unserious our nation is. And I can understand why certain people aren't conservative and why certain people see there being some danger and the emphasis on tradition. But when it's all said and done, I feel like we should be on the same page that these people ripping off their bras and their tops on the White House lawn, screaming about how excited they are to mutilate their genitals, that was the lowest our country has ever reached. That was literally so traumatizing as an American to sit there and witness, and knowing that the whole world global stage was watching this. Okay, watching that happen at the White House made a case for haram. That had me ready to move to Abu Dhabi so fast, because what I will give to these, some of these that I don't know how it is in Abu Dhabi. There's no shade to them, but when we look at some of these Arab countries, the ones that are more strict with their, Islamic laws and everything, one thing that I understand is, what, if you're going to be on an extreme of either, have an extreme that isn't as pedophilic, isn't as gross, at least has some kind of values attached to it, because that happening at the White House was crazy. Ms. Rodriguez, do you remember where you were when you saw those images?
Yeah, I was in the bathroom. I was
Oh,
hurling.
oh,
It was terrible. I remember seeing those images vividly, and I was ashamed. I was just like, "Wow, this country." I really felt a great sense of just we are going down the tubes fast, and at that point, I was genuinely concerned, spiritually speaking, of just like how where is this going to lead to?
mm-hmm.
So I'm so happy to see that there's a sense of normalcy returning. I can't get behind no bunnies, but I can get behind Jesus Christ. That's who I can get
Clock it.
behind, our risen King. So that's all I got to say on that. But I certainly remember that. And I'm glad to see the contrast to where we're at now, and prayfully the better places where we're going.
Well, you know what? Wake it up, Mr. Rodriguez, because, we have conversations here, Chad. One of the things I I don't want to seem like that person that tries to remove everything that is fun, but I do want people to remember how many of these practices are just strictly pagan. Like, I really am not the biggest, like, I say Easter just because it's a part of just everyone's lexicon, but really it should be just viewed as either Passover or Resurrection Day. Because when we talk about Easter and just like the pagan background to it, this episode isn't going to be talking about all that. But let me know, should we do a deep dive on how pagan principles and pagan practices have infiltrated into so many Christian spaces? I think that needs to be, you know what, Mr. Rodriguez, when I get back from Israel, we're going to do that.
Can we please do that? I was just about to say, you're firing me up over here because I know there's so much different misconceptions about these things and these pagan events, and they can be easily broken down, and it would be awesome and fun to do this year on Respectfully. So I'm looking forward to something like that.
Yes, this show has range, child. We're going to be talking about all that because I have been biting my tongue on so many elements of how just pagan principles are so deep in the Christian church. And I feel like a lot of people don't know it. And a lot of people just completely overlook these things because we've grown up around it. But it's like, no, like, I'm not messing with this fertility bunny. But we'll keep that conversation for a future episode. So keep an eye out for that. I think we should do that as soon as I'm back from Israel. So that being said, the other crazy thing that happened over this weekend was Coachella. So I can't just keep moving. This is the goofy of the day. Okay, at first I was just going to get right into this story, but I had to make sure I clocked just how goofy this whole situation is. This whole little free Palestine Cella type of ordeal, anti-Cella Semitism going on. So for those who don't know, if you live under a rock or if you're somebody that pays bills, you might not know what Coachella is. Coachella is this huge festival that happens here in Southern California every year where some of the biggest stars in the world come and they headline. And I've never been because I love a good time, but I'm not the biggest festival person. It gets a little too crazy and chaotic, and I don't do drugs like that. So I feel like that's mostly fun if you are somebody who likes to do all those kind of crazy activities. So it's just really not my scene. But not saying everybody that goes there does that, but that's largely what the culture there is. And then again, huge stars go, like Beyonce had a huge iconic performance there some years ago. Lady Gaga shut it down. Green Day was a headliner this year. So huge music festival. All these different bands and artists come every single year. So what happened was this year, there is this group called Kneecap. They are an Irish-speaking hip-hop trio that performed at Coachella both weekends of the festival. Now, I had never heard of Kneecap, and I hope after this conversation today, I never have to hear about Kneecap again. But apparently they are no... I'm sorry. Just the visual of thinking of like, let me not get beat up by Irish people if I ever go to Ireland, but I just can't envision Irish people being like, acting hard. Like, I'm not saying Irish people aren't tough. Like, Conor McGregor, shout out to you. Shout out to Will in the back. And, I got a little dose of Irish in me. But I'm not saying, y'all get what I'm trying to say? Like, seeing Irish gangsters is crazy to me. Like, imagine Conor McGregor sagging his pants, child. It's like, what are you going to do? Be a leprechaun on O Block? Let me stop. I'm cooking too much. But, this hip-hop trio, Kneecap, It's just so unserious. But they are known for their politically charged music. They have been boycotting Israel since 2020. And back during weekend one, they made a bold political statement where they it started with, they let this whole anti-Margaret Thatcher situation where they were chanting Maggie's in a box, which I'm assuming was just celebrating the fact that, Margaret Thatcher passed away about 10, 12 years ago. So I thought that was a bit weird. And I'm like, who is beefing with Margaret Thatcher? Like, that is just such a bizarre thing. Like, that's like beefing with Betty White. Like, leave Margaret alone. Let that lady rest. And if you don't know who Margaret Thatcher is, because, they don't really open up the schools these days, you should go to Prageru.com because we have plenty of videos about her, both for high school kids, for little kids, for adults. We have all kind of educational content on her because she's really iconic. She's very legendary. She's been that girl for quite some time. She was the UK's pioneering female prime minister from 1979 to 1990. She was a transformative conservative leader who championed free market policies and privatization. And, she was really the person who rescued Great Britain's economy. And she did that by leading global economic reform. So again, having beef with her all these years later, 10, 12 years after this nice, sweet old lady has passed away, that's kind of crazy. But they were up there chanting about how she was in a box. And then they were also chanting... Oops, sorry, gagged. They were chanting Free Palestine, and but not from Hamas, just chanting Free Palestine and Free the 6 counties. Was it counties? Free the 6 counties during their set. And I guess that is referring to Northern Ireland's unification, which I'm not going to speak on the 6 counties part. I don't know anything about Ireland's politics, so y'all might be cooking with something there. But talking about Free Palestine, please. Okay, Free Palestine from the terrorist regime that's there. So they did that during week one. So that was just about a week ago. And they are claiming that they were just out there screaming this whole pro-Palestinian message. And they were really mad about the fact that it was cut from their live stream. So when Coachella put this on their live stream, they cut their whole little rant about Palestine, the 6 counties, and about Thatcher. They made an Instagram post they made an X post, I think an Instagram post too about it, just crashing out about the censorship of it all, which we'll talk about that a bit more because you guys know how I feel about censorship at this point. But, I think it is worth having that conversation of what is acceptable and what is not, in my humble opinion. But, after all this crashing out, you would think that they would realize, this is a huge opportunity. Most people have not heard of Kneecap. So them being on the Coachella stage is a huge opportunity for them. And you would think that after making it very clear that Coachella did not want this to become a huge political event, that they would back down a little bit, but no, they full sended. And the next week, so this past weekend, they put up these insane visuals so that it could not be cut from their live set. So they put up their F Israel, Free Palestine. So this is the one that's going very viral for numerous reasons. I think they had a few more. Do we have those others? I don't have my eyes on. What does that say, Mr. Rodriguez?
That one says Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinian people.
Yeah, they're not, but that's what it says up there, because these people just have no idea what it is that they're talking about. Because if this is a genocide, this is the most unsuccessful genocide of all time, considering the fact that the Palestinian population just continuously has risen for all these years that they claim it's been an apartheid. So that's crazy. I don't think you should consider a war an apartheid, but, you shouldn't consider a war a genocide, but, these people... the schools are closed. So we'll just continue to blame it on that. And what does this one say, Mr. Rodriguez?
It is being enabled by the U.S. government who arm and fund Israel despite their war crimes. I'm gagging back here too.
It, it just really takes me out because these people will sit here and talk about, what about the war crimes of Israel? What about October 7th? What about all the things that these people have been doing for decades? Hamas has been wreaking havoc since 1988 and committing war crimes, but nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about that. They want to talk about freeing a place. You know what? Palestine is free. So any of the Arab countries can come pick it up, but they don't want it. Why? Because they know how Hamas is over there wreaking havoc and they don't want to deal with Hamas. So everybody keeps getting blamed besides the literal terrorist organization that is causing all these problems. Okay, so this is crazy. So that's what these people are out here saying, that they let this whole free Palestine chant, which again, musty, dirty, unbathed. That's what it's giving to me when you go up there with these antifada chants. Like, this is what they're doing. Okay, and I'm really just thrown by it because I didn't know Ireland was even had a stake in the game at this point, but I feel like this is just them trying to appeal and them trying to get the buzz around them. But it's just really sad for a number of reasons. One, music and music festivals are supposed to be where people are brought together. Okay, so this really is just absurdity. As someone who is a firm believer of there can be intersectionalities with culture and politics and different platforms, but it's like you also have to read the room and you also have to know why are people coming here. Okay, two things that I think that on the platform should be excluded from sport or from politics. I believe that sports should not be political. Music should not be overly political. Okay, what you do on your own platform, your own social media, I respect that. Getting involved with different politicians, if you're actually educated on the matter, I respect that. And it's so funny. I have these friends who are influencers that I've met at random like TikToker parties who, when I meet them and they ask me what I do and I tell them, they're like, oh yeah, well, I don't really know much about politics, but I did this for Kamala Harris's campaign, or I was flown out here to do this, this, and this. And it's so funny how so many of them got paid insane amounts of money and they know nothing. I was like, what policies of hers did you like? And they're like, yeah, we don't know. So even like, it's just so baffling to me how these people are so bold about things that they're completely ignorant about. But this kneecap group, they've been building a platform against Israel back since 2020. So I can at least say that they're true to this, not new to this, but they're ignorant to this all at the same time. And it's just funny to me when you do this at Coachella because it's like, read the room. Okay, imagine trying to preach about genocide to a crowd full of LA rich kids on acid. No shade. Okay, no. Actually, all tea, all shade, and all offense. I meant what I said. Okay, so your target audience that you're trying to communicate all this craziness to, these people are literally snowed out of their minds, drunk as they possibly can be. They're just there to shake their behind and be nefarious. And you're sitting here wanting to talk about a genocide that's not happening, a war that you clearly don't know much about. It's getting weird. And I shouldn't say that it's all just LA rich kids, because a lot of the people there are people of poverty. There's something about broke people that really fascinates me, because how are you always on a plane or in a section with no money? Imagine being at Coachella dancing with Lady Gaga, doing the abracadabra choreography instead of paying your bills. 60% of the people at Coachella use the buy now, pay later function, according to Billboard. 60%. And again, I get it. This is like your Super Bowl. Like if I was a person of poverty and I really, really wanted to go to WrestleMania, because y'all know I'm a diehard WWE fan, or if I was somebody who was super, super into the NFL and wanted to go to the Super Bowl, I can respect it. Because people finance stuff all the time. I can respect it to an extent, but it's like, get your priorities together. What do you mean you're doing buy now, pay later for a Coachella ticket? Is that serious for you? Now imagine you're broke. Here you are putting your last little shekels together to go over to this festival, and then you're getting preached to about politics that you didn't ask to hear about. Kneecap. Read the room. Nobody wanted to hear this. Okay? And now when it comes to this conversation too, an important thing that we need to talk about, because I'm all for artistic freedom of expression within a reasonable boundary, but I think it's also really disrespectful to the people who were there, because and then also to like the Nova victims. A lot of the people who were there that I knew personally who went to Coachella, they are Israeli or related or have friends who are Israeli. And you think about it and you just read the room. Have we forgotten how how this whole war with Israel and Palestine really, Palestine doesn't exist, by the way, but have we forgotten how this Palestinian-Israeli conflict really escalated back on October 7th at the Nova Music Festival, which is very similar to Coachella, where all these people come having the time of their life, dancing the night away to EDM music. And next thing you know, 364 of them are brutally murdered, 44 taken hostage, and all the survivors who were there are ridiculously traumatized. So many of them have unalived themselves. And I've met many survivors. This is actually a clip that we're playing. If we can run that again. This video here, I took this. I took this when I was at the Nova Music Festival site. And all of these photos that you see are different young, beautiful people who were there to dance, to sing, to enjoy their lives, enjoying life. Like literally the whole theme of the festival was just enjoying life and enjoying music. And instead of being able to do that, they were murdered. They were sexually aid. Can't say too much because it's YouTube, but all the horrible, tragic things that happen, all the tragic stories that you hear that happen, people being SA'd in front of their significant others and then being set on fire and having to watch their loved ones be set on fire. These are the type of things that happen at Nova Music Festival. So to be in this eerily similar setting, to be condemning Israel and uplifting Hamas, which is what you inherently mean when you say free Palestine in this context, that's just wildly distasteful and honestly extremely shameful. And these people they're constantly talking about genocide and all these and like war crimes and everything, but they never talk about October 7th. They never talk about the 1,400 people who were murdered. They never talk about how civilians from Gaza were doing majority of the kidnappings. Oh yes, that's something that a lot of people don't know. I've been to Israel 3 times. As you're watching this, I'm on my way for the 4th. And something that I didn't know until I went last July was that majority, or at least a significant portion of the kidnappings were actually done by Gazan civilians, because they were taking these people in for basically ransom money and taking these people over to Hamas to get a check. This is how low down and dirty Hamas is and how supportive the Palestinians are of what Hamas is doing. So to have a conversation about freeing Palestine, but not once talking about what happened on October 7th, and then to highlight this at a music festival, it's just shameful. It's really, really shameful. And now these people are just continuously posting about it as if this is good PR. Like they're loving the scandal. They're probably going to love this video of what I'm saying. And you know what? That being said, I don't want to give this too much more attention. I'm really, really repulsed that there are still people who are trying to hate on Israel for defending itself and hating on Israel for the fact that they have had enough of constantly seeing their people be kidnapped, murdered, and SA'd. And you know what? If you're going to continue to be ignorant on your own platform, but to utilize Coachella's stage for that was crazy. And as far as the censorship conversation, it's a fine line. I'll admit that, me being fair and not wanting to be a hypocrite, I'm very much in favor of freedom of expression, and I am very much in favor of, even if I disagree with the other side of someone politically, I want them to be able to voice how it is that they feel. But when you are on but that's on your platform. When you are on Coachella's platform in front of 125,000 people being broadcasted to millions of people through various streams, it's pretty reckless to go and have this hateful, divisive rhetoric. There is a nuanced conversation that could be had if you really wanted to go and use this stage for that reason, to talk about politics, but to just spew hatred in that way and to just to make it seem like all of Israel and all Israelis and all Jewish people should be attacked in that way, that's just shameful. And when Coachella didn't show it on their live stream and cut this from the broadcast, and by the way, they really played themselves, because them acting out on weekend 1, their entire tent that they were at ended up not being broadcasted for weekend 2 without their knowledge. And that was because Coachella knew that they were probably going to try to pull something slick again. So my answer when it comes to the censorship here is that technically censorship? Yeah. But on a private, when it comes to, and I'm trying to choose my words carefully here, because I don't want anybody calling me a hypocrite, because y'all know how I feel. I like things to be freedom of speech, but this is Coachella's platform. This is a setting that Coachella has cultivated. You aren't about to sit here and lie and tell me that these people came for Kneecap. So Kneecap is barely even in the room. Green Day was up there saying some pro-Palestine stuff too, and that's a whole nother conversation. But you have to be able to read the room. I said the same thing about Colin Kaepernick. Going and kneeling and making these political statements, that's not what you're there for. You're there to do a job. When you are somewhere, let me put it this way to simplify it. When you are somewhere to do a job that has nothing to do with your political opinions, I really do feel like you should stick to your job or have a more respectful, nuanced conversation. But using the Coachella platform to just spew hatred, that is something that I think is absolutely unacceptable. And I don't blame Coachella for cutting it. And if it were the other way around, if it was somebody going up there saying, just super right-wing things or things super in favor of Israel, would I be happier about it? Of course. But would I also respect Coachella's decision to cut it from the broadcast? I would. And I would understand it. Social media, whole different situation. Social media is your platform, but that is not your stage, and nobody came there to see kneecap. Ending that on a more positive note, I thought the Nova exhibition, which is now heading to Toronto, I thought they had a really nice statement that they put out about it. If you don't know the Nova exhibition, they've been going to major cities, and basically they've brought in numerous videos and footage and artifacts. If that's probably a bad way to explain it, but just things that were picked up from October 7th. I don't know if artifacts is the right word for it, but they're bringing in a bunch of different things that relate to October 7th, whether it was the videos, whether it was things that were left behind, whether they were possessions that were found, just all these various things. They have been taking it on a tour. I went to the New York location when it opened. I went to the LA location as well. And honestly, it's a very immersive, heavy experience that I think is 100% worth seeing. I won't read the whole statement here, but the overall sentiment of what Nova Exhibition put out about it was, you know what, we're not even mad at you, kneecap. But if you want to educate yourself on the horrors of what happened at the Nova Music Festival, very similar to the Coachella setting, how about you come to Toronto and you hear out our side of what's going on, and you come and see the horror and the damage that was done to the Israeli community, so that you are not preaching about this from a one-side perspective. And I just thought that was a beautiful, classy way to go about this conversation, and that's what the Israeli side of the argument tends to do. Moving on along. Speaking of the Coachella weekend, some clips that came out that really had me disturbed were about Justin Bieber, and this breaks my heart. Oh, I am a believer. I am. I grew up on Justin Bieber. I remember being so jealous. People try to tell me that I want to be white and that's why I went blonde. No, I like my blonde hair because I feel like I'm looking at myself right now. Like, I feel like my blonde hair makes my black skin or my brown skin look richer, like a richer chocolate. Like, I love how it complements my brown skin. The only time I have wanted a haircut that was very much of the Caucasus Mountains was when Justin Bieber had the I wanted that swoop cut so bad. Like, literally all of my friends in middle school would have it. And like, if you were competing for a girl or something at the lunch table, you knew the war was really going when you started seeing because then it would be like, I still remember, I remember all the different ways they would do it. And and being at this all-white middle school surrounded by all-white kids, yes, this haircut had my middle school era in a chokehold, okay? In an absolute chokehold. I remember asking my mom if I could perm my hair so that I could do this, and the way she read me for absolute filth, I will never forget it. She was like, I know you are not out there trying to look like one of these little white boys. This was peak white culture, okay? I wanted the swoop so bad. And I remember one day, because, when you're around different people, that's like, a sign. Yes, this here, chokehold. This was the backbone of society in the early 2010s, late 2000s. You couldn't tell me this wasn't the most iconic thing in the world. And that was all the little white boys had to do to pull the girls. They would have not me calling these children ugly, but their face cards were declining. But if their face card declined and they had the swoop, they pulled the cutest girl in the school. But all that to say, when you're around people for too long and you start to pick up their little mannerisms, if you could zoom out really quick, Mr. Rodriguez, someone has lived in Asia or been around Asians when they sit like this. I don't know how to explain it, but pay attention. If you meet anybody that has lived in China for a time period, they always sit like this. It's a thing. And I know this because I'm 2% Chinese. Yeah, like this. Or something like that. They always have that 1 foot up. And I'm just like, if you don't get your foot up my blood clot furniture. And being Chinese, I understand it. It's in my bloodline. But all that to say, when I was a kid, sometimes I would just unprovoked go, and my mom would look at me and be like, don't. Anyway, I'm a mess. Let's get back on topic. Justin Bieber, justice for him. Justice for Justin Bieber. Okay, these videos came out of him at Coachella. And again, I know he's under the influence. When people go to Coachella, if you go to Coachella sober, that to me is giving sociopathic. I couldn't imagine. But I saw this video and I was scared. So this video came out of Justin Bieber dancing, and it's like, I'm not judging too much. I'm not judging him at all. Okay, I'm more just concerned because I think if you go to Coachella or something like Coachella sober, you're a little sociopathic. But it's like, what is he on? Can we see the other videos? Because some of the other videos really start to paint the picture too. He's smoking on something. I'm assuming it's the peace flower, but if it's beyond peace flower, that's concerning to me. And just look at him hunched over, the way he's dancing kind of erratically. I think this is the one at the end. Yeah. What is this, just him vibing? For him to be like this out in public is like concerning. And I'm really protective over him because I will never forgive myself for allowing what happened to Britney Spears to happen to Britney Spears. I mean, mind you, in 2007, when she truly crashed out, I was 10. So there wasn't much that I could do, but I feel like I should have done something. I should have done more. Okay. I look at Justin Bieber and I get scared. I don't want to see another Amanda Bynes situation. I don't want to see another Demi Lovato situation. I don't want to see another Britney situation. I'm very scared of the company that he keeps. And I feel like Justin Bieber, he's one of those people, kind of deals with the Marilyn Monroe curse, where so many people around you only want to be around you and your persona and like you being the pop star, because Justin really is like the last big male pop star to come out of this millennium so far, or to this like level of stardom. And I feel scared that he's so lonely sometimes, where he just wants anybody around him that he can find. And I've met a lot of people who've worked with him in different capacities, or like have just random different people who've worked with Justin Bieber, and they all tell very similar stories of him. And their stories actually very much aligns with the timeline of his crash out and his associations. But there was a point where Justin Bieber literally just used to go to the club by himself because he realized like it was just like the bet. I forgot what the reasoning was for it that the person explained to me, but he would go to clubs by himself and just sit there. And like, of course, him sitting there, there's going to be a crowd of people around him, but he just realized he was at peace more if he was just there doing his thing. And I was like, what? I get really scared for this kid. I don't, and he's older than me, but I get really scared for him. And I saw that he's been hanging out with Sexy Red, this female rapper, Sexy Red, a glorified stripper. He was hanging out with her a lot. And it's just like, this is the company you're keeping Justin Bieber? And when he wasn't around ghetto black people, he was hanging out with P. Diddy. And we all know the allegations about what P. Diddy allegedly put Justin Bieber through. So to see him go from the Diddys of the world to now the Sexy Reds of the world, I'm scared. What is it that y'all even talk about? You're a multi-hundred-millionaire pop star prince from Canada. What are you talking to this ghetto girl or Sexy Red about? And Sexy Red isn't as concerning to me because she at least seems like a good time, like she's funny. But then Sukihana, I saw this photo of him and Sukihana. Now, mind you, I'm doing him justice by showing you the edited version. This is the airbrush version, but I saw the B-roll video of this photo being taken. And if you zoom into his face, can you zoom in real quick, child?
Will's doing it.
Sorry, I should have asked you this before.
It's all good.
Come on now. His face, he doesn't look there. You can read a lot about the soul behind the eyes, or through the eyes. And to me, he just doesn't look like he's there. And why are you with Sukiana? Why, like, go, there's so many, like, there are, because again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this just because they're ghetto and black. There are some ghetto black people that I don't think are as potentially damaging to his reputation, his image, his decisions as these people. It's just, I feel like at this point in his career, Justin Bieber should not be associating with these kind of people that are just ratchet. Just because y'all probably don't know who Sukiana is, let me just play you a quick clip to give you an idea of her. And I hope it's censored. This is her in London.
I'm trying to get my stretch and eat a today in London. Period, baby. I'm trying to get this stretch. Okay.
This is why racism exists. Because you have this curvaceous woman in a classy area in London cutting off these nice white old ladies, talking about getting her chinche. I ain't gonna repeat it. Y'all heard what she was talking about. Y'all heard the groceries she was talking about eating. And, you know, just the overall, this is just her. This is the same girl who was talking about she doesn't know the difference between being a magician and a musician, even though she's a rapper. Like, Justin Bieber should not be around these people. Okay? And the last time Justin Bieber really started to crash out, it was because he was in his light skin era and he was hanging out with, you know, Khalil and them. He was in the 2010s when Justin Bieber was getting in trouble for urinating in public and being a degenerate and like getting super drunk underage and talking reckless to different celebrities at the club. Like, it was because of his association. It was largely because he was traumatized, he was numbing himself, and he was around really negative, low-down people. And I'm really afraid of him getting there again. So I'm just, again, putting out there a cry for help for Justin Bieber. We need to save Justin Bieber before he becomes Britney. Lastly, I want to talk about this new Shannon Sharpe case. Okay, so Texas attorney, first of all, if you don't know who Shannon Sharpe is, you are missing out. I love the Shannon Sharpe show. Shannon Sharpe, he's 55. He's an NFL Hall of Famer. He was a co-host on FS1's Undisputed and the host of Club Shay Shay podcast. And he is reportedly currently enjoying a $100 million podcast deal. Oh, I didn't know he was that big still. Good for him. Shannon Sharpe looking his best. Okay, well, there is a new Me Too style situation that is against him where Tony Busby, this notorious attorney, he is leading a $50 million SA lawsuit against Shannon Sharpe that just filed over the weekend. And I have a lot of suspicions. So this Tony Busby, before I even get into why I don't trust him, he filed this on behalf of a Jane Doe, a woman in her 20s who is alleging that there were multiple SA situations from Shannon Sharpe between 2023 to January of 2025. She also claims that her and Sharpe were engaged in a rocky consensual relationship, and that is a quote, for 2 years, which whatever that means, and that it was marked by intimidation, manipulation, and abuse, which that doesn't really sound right to me. I don't think Shannon Sharpe, from what we know about him, is the type to keep someone in a 2-year Diddy-style relationship like that. But at the same time, we never knew anything about Bill Cosby until, or maybe y'all did, but I didn't. I was so shocked about the Bill Cosby situation. But the specific allegations include sexual activities without consent, shared videos forcibly assaulting, and this Jane Doe says that most of that was happening in October 2024, between then and January 2025, and that Shannon would allegedly ignore her refusals. This Jane Doe also says that she attempted to end the relationship after Shannon Sharpe's September 2024 Instagram Live incident, where he accidentally live streamed having sex with another woman, which you just had to be there. That was crazy. That was a crazy moment on Black Twitter. And that she seeks $50 million in damages because of this, because of the battery and all of the emotional distress. Now, this Jane Doe, I want to say this to start out. I believe that every alleged SA victim is worth hearing out. However, when you are represented by Tony Busby, I automatically have my hesitations. Tony Busby is the lead attorney on this. He's this 56-year-old Houston-based lawyer who is known for high-profile cases and is the founder of Busby Law Firm. Now, Busby, he is this thirsty for attention celebrity style lawyer that loves to be in the spotlight. He's very Al Sharpton-esque in the way that he operates, and everything about him is flashy. He notoriously parked a massive $600,000 World War II tank outside of his home. Why? I don't know. I don't want to know because I don't understand it. It's just weird. And then he also owns a jet called Lawsuit Air. He likes for you to see when he is out and about flying and making all his money from these insane cases, which being a lawyer and having a private jet like that, like, that doesn't really add up. A lot of lawyers don't make nearly as much as people assume that they make, but he's getting his bag one way or another. And he is notorious at this point for extortion allegations. Jay-Z accused Busby of blackmailing him back in December of 2024. And that's when he had the whole situation where, as much as I do believe Jay-Z's time will come, I think Jay-Z he's guilty of a lot of allegations, but I said from day one, I didn't believe the allegations that were going on regarding the whole situation where this woman in 2000 was claiming that Jay-Z SA'd her when she was 13. And, this whole thing too, the timing of it was so crazy. Tony Busby led this whole campaign against Jay-Z, trying to extort him out of money, right as Blue Ivy, Jay-Z's eldest daughter, was having the huge premiere of her Lion King Mufasa movie. And they were trying to get Jay-Z to extort this money to allegedly eliminate some of the bad PR that was falling on Beyonce and Blue Ivy, who were both having big moments around that time. This was right before Beyonce was leading the likelihood and ended up ultimately winning Album of the Year at the Grammys. This was right as Blue Ivy was having her huge premiere. And it's like, those two, they did nothing wrong in this situation. And I don't think Jay-Z did either, but Tony Busby knew what he was doing at that timing by putting the pressure on Jay-Z to try to get him to acquiesce sooner rather than later. He also has a lot of allegations. And by the way, that whole situation got dropped because there was no proof. Everybody started seeing like the weird parallels of that situation with other Tony Busby situations. And ultimately, Jay-Z walked away vindicated from that situation, but the damage was still done on his reputation, and that dark cloud was still put over the Lion King Mufasa premiere. Some of the other unethical conduct claims and allegations includes 2 former clients sued Busby in December of 2024, alleging that he pocketed settlement money through unethical accounting, and one claimed that he infected her with a venereal disease and even manipulated her divorce settlement. So there's also a court admission issue where in March of 2025, Busby withdrew from P. Diddy, he was representing 15 P. Diddy lawsuits in New York federal court. And after admitting that he wasn't licensed to practice there, it raised all these questions of, then why were you there in the first place? Why were you a part of these 15 Diddy lawsuits if you aren't even licensed to practice there? You know what he did it for? To get his name in the headlines, to be talked about in the shade room. He got all this attention just from being a part of the Diddy conversation. He doesn't care how low down and dirty the situation is. He wants that attention. So he has this pattern of getting into high profile cases against a lot of typically wealthy celebrities or wealthy black men, is why a lot of people don't like him. He's kind of the opposite of Al Sharpton in that sense, where Al Sharpton usually goes after trying to uplift the poor black people. Tony Busby is going after all of the wealthy black people in Hollywood, but it's not even just black. He goes after anytime he can attach himself to a celebrity scandal, even when the celebrity is as in the wrong as they possibly can be. They go to Tony because they know that Tony will allegedly do anything necessary to try to clean up that person's image, even if they are completely in the wrong. He's also represented Chris Brown, and he has this pattern of dropping the cases once they're no longer profitable. He gets in the cases knowing that they're not winnable a lot of the times, and then will get all this publicity, chase all this clout, and then he will drop the situation. So he's also he filed 21 lawsuits against the NFL quarterback Deshaun Watson back in 2021 for sexual misconduct. And Shannon Sharpe called Busby's refusal to share evidence in this current situation as a red flag, considering that there's no evidence out so far of this situation that Busby is now bringing forward. Busby also helped sue Travis Scott for $750 million on behalf of the 120 Astroworld victims, which, if you don't remember that, a bunch of people ended up getting hurt because of a security issue at Travis Scott's concert, but to sue Travis Scott personally for that was insane. Okay, that was obviously a massive tragedy. He didn't want to see 120 of his fans getting hurt, but people were running a stampede there, and there was nothing that Travis Scott from stage would have been able to do. That didn't stop Tony Busby from leading that lawsuit. So I say all this to paint the picture that when I see Tony Busby as a part of the situation, I think he's just trying to get his name back in the press. I think he's trying to get a quick bag. And for far too long, people have been afraid of the Me Too allegations because of how Me Too has destroyed so many people's careers, even if the person being accused ends up being acquitted of everything. But again, this is another Al Sharpton style grifter taking advantage of whether it's race or clout just to try to get himself a quick bag. So I think it is worth, I will be following this case. It is worth hearing out the victim, but stop giving credibility to Me Too claims without seeing any evidence first. You are innocent until proven guilty in this country, and we do have due process for a reason. That's all for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. Again, I'm so grateful that you guys got me to 100,000 cousins here at the table. And I am having a great time in Israel, hopefully by now, or probably still on the plane by the time you guys are watching this. Can't wait to let you guys know the stories. We'll still have shows for you coming up for the rest of this week. I had a couple interviews for you guys, and who knows, I might even send you guys a friendly little message from Israel just so you guys know that I'm having a good time out there. Love you, cousins. I will talk to you soon.